let's get the ball rolling. Russell, can you give us a little bit about your background and how you came to spend so much time thinking and writing about author life and mindset and all of these things, in addition to all of the other really practical marketing advice and things that you provide?
Yeah, so I think most people who are in the author coach writing coachy space like probably started as writers and then like they kept being asked all of these questions about writing and then they like built that into their process. I wanted people to leave me alone, which is weird because like, look, we're here like 10 years later. But like my goal was like, okay, you have questions. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to hand it to you, and then you're going to let me go back to selling books and writing books. And then I gave people a book and they were like, no, I need more. And I'm like, well, I can do courses. Like, you just got to pay me a lot more. And like, it started going from, and then like and then I realized that like, no one wants to sit down and give you an hour consulting for free, but they sure as heck will give you they'll sit down for an hour or two on a podcast and give you all of their best advice. So like I started a podcast based on that. And like so it was all very self-serving, which is again very weird on this, but like it was all to get back to writing. And I think what makes all of the stuff that I do kind of unique is like I write very weird books. I like so like by the time something is successful with me, it's like gone through fire. It's like if I can sell like weird mythological fantasy comic books and like weird like psychological horror books and like make a living doing it, if you're writing romance, you're probably going to make a fortune from it. And so like I told Farrell when we were at my conference a couple of months ago, she's like, "Do you do all this special edition stuff?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, but like I test all of these methodologies on my weird books, so like romance authors can make a fortune on them." And that's kind of been where my career has been from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. And so one of the things that came out of that was you now talking a lot more about just like the systems that we find ourselves in. And you differentiate between sort of capitalism and commerce.
Do.
And can you tell us like what is that distinction? What's the distinction that you make there, and like why is that important in thinking about like your sort of publishing uh
Sure. So there's a big, so most people say like they don't like the idea of like making money makes them gross, like makes them feel gross. And so like the first question that I always ask is like, well, is it the fact that like you're making money at all? Or is it the fact that like most of capitalism is built on exploitation of labor? Like, because like these are two, like if you don't like the capitalism part, like good news. Like you can conduct commerce inside of capitalism and like it ends up being like much easier to like make things more equitable. Like you don't have like you can pay people whatever you want. Like you can make the books and bind them yourself if you want. Like you can make any like machination within that kind of better for yourself. But like all economic systems have commerce. Like whether it's a barter system, whether it's communism, whether it's fascist, like they all have this exchange of goods and services and like some form of like how to trade. Like this can is worth 3 beans and like this thing is worth 20, like 3 raccoon pelts. Like you, like there is no like society without people specializing in certain things and then using that specialization to match with other people with a different specialization. And then like nobody can do everything. Like that's how society functions. And what I find often is that writers actually like they don't like commerce very much either. They don't like what they fear is like if I put myself out there, I will be rejected. And so I I hide behind the like money is gross, marketing is gross, like XYZ other things as like a way to protect myself from ever being exposed. And most of what my work has been over the last 15 years is like breaking those things down so that people are willing to expose themselves. And so like a lot of this, most of this book is not like it's definitely not a like anti-communist like a communist manifesto. What it is saying like, well, these are the things that you are doing that do work. These are the things you're doing that don't work. And these are the things that are working against you. And it turns out when like you actually list all of those things out, writers are doing way more things that work against them than for them. Most people are. It's not just writers, but like most people are saying are doing things that actively hold them back. And if they just stop doing the things that actively hold them back, like saying things like money is bad, then like they could do things that are just neutral, like not even like getting ahead, and they would be so much further ahead than they are now because they are no longer being dragged down. They're only not being lifted up. Does that make
Ye-
sense?
Yeah. So what are some of those, what are the some of those things? And this is where you talk about sort of radical honesty too, right? Is like what are some of those things that are truths about publishing that most authors don't want to confront or have, or how do we overcome some of those things and recognize that those are detrimental and are holding us back?
So, so one of them is people expect capitalism and the universe to act rationally. And it doesn't. It does not act rationally. Like, there's no reason why certain things make more money and certain things make less money. But what both of these things do, the universe as a whole and capitalism as the best encapsulation of how the universe operates in chaos that like we have yet found for an economic system, is it works consistently. So like people often think that like one plus one equals two. And like that's not true. It's just usually not true. Like that's logically what you would expect, but like it turns out that like potato plus chicken equals two. But like it always equals two. Like if you put those two things together, you will get like two. So one of the things that I always say is like people don't perform nearly enough actions with marketing or with sales or with anything. There is this thing called the bell curve, and it says that once you have a randomly distributed sample of enough people, will things will fall into this kind of like distribution pattern, and you can use it to predict like the wider society at large. Like that's the statistical term. What I mean, though, is in sales, if you don't do enough actions, you cannot predict the results of those actions. So someone said that they got 40 people picked up their book and no one left a review. Well, we know that if you have enough people, roughly 1% of them will leave a review, right? I mean, that's not like but it's not out of 40. Like you have to have at least 100 people to like expect one review. So, like, does that person have a problem with reviews? I don't know. Like, so most of when I talk to people, it's I can't actually tell you because like you need just significantly more information. Like it's not 100, it's really like 1,000 people need to get your book for free. Or 20, like I don't know what it might be 10,000 people before you can say 1% of them will leave a review. But like it's definitely more than 40 because we know that like it is roughly 1%. And in order to get 1%, you need at least 100 things, right?
Yeah.
Um, and this is true, like people are expecting 100 people to buy their book and their email list either doesn't exist or they've got 30 friends. And you're like, well, like you want 300% of people, you want every one of your people you know to buy 3 copies of your book. And then we also know that the way to like game an algorithm is you have to have a massive thing happening correctly inside the algorithm to like make it start working for you. And like, so all of these things are like, they're just not doing enough. And I don't think, I like, that is not my hope. Like, I don't like saying that. I don't like that the universe works that way, but like, if you don't at least accept that truth, then like there is no expectation for success. You might succeed because like if you only have 40 of a thing and you need 100, you might get 5 reviews. But like you can't predictably get 5 reviews. And that's what I think like a business is built on predictability. If you bring in 500 people, this result will happen.
Yeah, and creating systems to make get to those points can be quite challenging, and that's one of those things where it becomes it's hard to build up those systems and all of the things that are necessary to get to numbers large enough that you can actually sort of predict things. I want to also go back to one of the things that you were saying earlier about authors not liking marketing and just generally not wanting to like sort of thinking that like making money is gross. I can tell you at least like from my own personal experience, I do not like marketing as well. And so I don't at least one thing that I have found helpful for me personally about unlocking part of that is, for example, I have a newsletter where I send out emails about like here's things I'm doing, and I think that a lot of people feel like they are supposed to be salesy, right? And that they must be salesy in order to sell their book. But I think that that is not really true. And I think that that is one of the problems that a lot of people struggle with is like feeling like gross and salesy when they talk about their own books. But I think that with my newsletter, I just I don't ever like try to sell people on, I don't ever try to be super salesy. It's more like I'm just trying to provide value to my audience, right? That is like, there are two real key components to me when I'm talking to authors or when authors or are talking to their readers. There's two key components, right? It's one is providing value to your audience, and then two is building rapport with your audience, right? So providing value, for me, that might look like, hey, here's the new feature I built, or hey, I'm going to be doing this info session with Russell. We're going to be talking about like mindset. Do you want to come join us? And then those are ways that I'm providing value. And so I might be talking about like, here's how Story Origin can help you as an author. But if I reframe that in my own mind from like trying to be salesy to just like, how can I help someone do something that they would otherwise potentially be struggling with? Like that helps me not only like not feel salesy and icky, but also helps me reframe my voice as well when I'm writing emails and doing those sort of marketing aspects to just genuinely trying to be helpful. And
Sure.
so I think that gets me past a lot of that stuff. And then the second part about building rapport is, for at least me, when it comes to newsletters, like usually I'll just like talk about something random, like here's a picture of something I did in the past week, and like here's a little bit, like it might be as simple as like I walked my dog, or I baked a cake or whatever, and there's like a picture of me. I think those two things do a lot for me in terms of like making it feel like I'm really providing value to people. How?
Can I ask,
Yeah,
can I stop you
yeah,
and ask you? Okay.
yeah,
So I have 2 questions for you. I'm
yeah,
gonna put you on the spot. Do you think you are a good person?
yes,
Do you think that that story origin can tangibly help people's lives? Okay. Out of anyone here, if story origin, just the product of story origin has positively impacted their life, just like type a one in the chat. So many ones that this is like without you doing this. So like this is a problem with authors because they always say, I need to do other things besides the books. But the truth is, Evan, that story origin by itself is your service. Writing a book is the service to the
yeah,
people. And if you
yep,
if you believe you are a good person and that your book can change people's lives for the better, you actually like the people are on your list to buy books from you. Like the problem comes when when what I'm not saying you shouldn't provide value beyond books or behind this or this thing. All of you are lovely. I love you all to death. And like, I'm so glad you were here. But actually, the book itself has value. Like the book
hmm
itself is the service. And
yep,
like your job in marketing, which I like don't agree that people don't like marketing. I think that what happens, because what happens is there are a lot of different kinds of marketing. And everyone here, I guarantee if I talk to them each for 5 minutes, I could find one kind of marketing they liked. Maybe it's going to a show and like talking about their book in front of people. Maybe it's like doing a blog. Maybe it's like doing social media. The problem is that like 3 different people each like different parts of marketing. They just don't think that the thing they like is marketing. They are like, oh, SEO is not marketing. But like, yes, it is. Like, if you like blogging and doing guest blogging and doing these appearances, guess what? This is marketing. If you like this part, awesome. Let's, instead of saying, I don't like marketing, say, this is the kind of marketing I like and get value from and provide value and brings tangible benefits from my life. So, how can I do more things like this? Whatever that thing is. And the reason why it's so important to say that is because if you say, I don't like marketing, you suddenly go, well, like, I don't have to do marketing. I don't like it. But like the real hook of marketing, when it becomes fun, and like everyone likes marketing because everyone wants to talk to people who like their books. Everyone wants more of those people. And
Yeah.
marketing is a way to find more people who love your books. The end result is everyone loves your books. And so, like, of course, everyone loves marketing. They have been told that they need to do all of these kinds of marketing, that marketing is X, Y, and Z, instead of saying, these are the things I like, and these are the things I don't. So, how can I get really good at these things and find people who can help me with this stuff I really like? Because those are the things that I do organically and that amplify everything that I do. Sorry, that was a lot of different threads in one time, but like,
I think it's important though is what I would pull out of there is like there are so many authors that I talk to as well who are at the beginning stages. Like they've just published their first book or they are about to publish their first book, and they're looking ahead at authors who have been doing this for 10 or 15 years. And they say, well, this author, they have, a 20 email welcome sequence, and they have all these splitting branches, and they're doing all these analytics, and they're running ads over in this place and this place and this place and that place. And they get immediately overwhelmed because they're like, how, like, it will take me, if I want to do all that, it's going to take me a year to set up all these different things going on in all these different places before I even, can publish the book because I've got to do all this other stuff. And I say to those authors, like, go ask that person what of that they had when they published their first book. I guarantee you, like, they probably didn't even have a welcome sequence, right? Like, their mailing list had three people on it, right? And one of them was their dog. Like, I think people just have that tendency to look at what everyone else is doing and say, I need to do all of it. But
right.
I think that reframing it as first, just find what you enjoy and what you love doing and stop discounting that as marketing and lean into that and start producing positive results. And then from there is where you sort of start to branch out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't on retailers for years. Like, I just wasn't. You go to my retailers, I have almost no reviews and I've made almost no sales. I think I made like $500 last year on all retailer sales because, like, I am not good at it. And, like, I never have tried to be good at it. I don't care about it literally at all. I'm only on retailers now, so some people will come to my website and buy direct. That's the only reason I care about retailers because authors are like, you need to be on retailers, man, because like everyone else is on retailers. So like I tell people I am world class at roughly nine things. And those nine, but my first year, I was world class at one thing. And if every year that you've done this, which is 9 years, you learn really well one skill. Then after doing this for 9 or 10 years, you have 10 killer skills. And like one of those might be email. I mean, Sky Warren doesn't think emails are that important because like she literally sent an email once. It's like email is kind of important, but really where I find value is in all of the Facebook audiences that I have. And it's like, okay, well, like clearly Facebook leads to email, which leads to like her sales. And like, awesome. I thought that was a really interesting reframe. Like, I am really great at cross promotion. And like I'm really great at like putting together anthologies and like monetizing it. Like I'm great at like at Kickstarter. Like I'm great at email, but like I kind of suck at like anything where like group projects, like not group projects, but like Facebook groups or like community. or like when I have to like lead people and they have to communicate together, like I am a metrovert. I only gain attention when attention's on me. That's the only way I gain energy. So like I'm being filled now like a freaking vampire. And the minute that attention's on me, I'm like, when's the attention gonna be back on me, guys, though? So like I don't do those things. You will not come and find a big community of like people that like have like a Facebook group around my work because like I am not good at it. That doesn't like that said, I made over 400 grand last year across all of my companies. So like I am good at business. I'm just like not good at that part of business. And I have over 1,000 paid members to my community. So like I'm doing something right when it comes to community. I'm just like not good at doing whatever thing that like gets people to 500 comments. And like that's okay. I have found that those 500 comments lead to very little money in my bank account, whereas other things lead to a lot more money in my bank account. And I'm most concerned with building leveraged assets, which is I perform one action and I get increasingly more and more and more amplification over time. And I am not interested in things like social media where every day it feels like you get less and less and less amplification. But like again, that's just me. I'm not good at that. Other people are really good at it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There are people who love social media and know how to do it, and they can get huge results from it. But if that is not you and you push yourself to do it, a lot of times it's going to be a lot of effort for little return because I think a lot of it can also come through. Like it comes through when you're doing something that you don't enjoy, people will notice. And so, yeah, you just have to do the things that give you energy and people will feed off of that energy too.
And then you can double down on those things. Like the problem is you're keeping up with the Joneses and everyone's doing all of these things. So suddenly, instead of doing the one thing that can give you 2x return, you end up doing that thing 10% of the time and like the other stuff that gives you less than 1x return like 90% of the time. And if you just like did the thing that gave you 2x return, you would get more return. Like you would just eventually you'd be like, oh, I doubled my mailing list. And like now I'm getting 3x return and 4x return and 5x return. And like now, like I have to send almost no emails in order to get stuff. Or like, and then as you are building this one thread, you're able to say, okay, I'm pretty stable here. Like, what is the next thing? And you're able to build behind it. But when you're building all of these things without having any pillar at all, you like can't build any stability. Whereas if you just, that's the whole point of our author ecosystems model is because if you find the one path to success, you can then amplify all of the other stuff. And then you become much sturdier over time.
So we've briefly sort of talked about a little bit around the economics of these things, but let's get into the nitty-gritty. Talk to me a little bit about the economics of book publishing and the challenges and opportunities there.
Sure. Well, the great thing about books is they can last forever. Like movies don't really last. Like m most people are not watching 1950s movies, but people are still reading 1960s. Like 1960s and 50s books are still relevant. Not as many, but like they are still relevant. People are still reading them in a way that just like I talk about this all the time. Like I go into a store, I'm in my 40s now, and like the music from my childhood is still relevant. Like it's still being played everywhere. And like, but you can't say that about my grandfather's generation. Like they didn't walk into like stuff in their face and be like listen to like big band music. Like that's just like music moved so far, but like books really haven't moved that, which is terrible on some level because like we're still dealing with very antiquated models, but like it is great because there is stability. The problem is you are against every other book that's ever been created. Like people are still listening to reading the Count of Monte Cristo, and like you still gotta like go up against it. And also all of that stuff is free. Here is the thing about like, you might have a recording of like Vivaldi's Four Seasons, but like you don't have Vivaldi's Four Seasons to read. Like you can't go back to like Mozart and like but you can go back just as far and read the Bible. Like so like you are just the competition is fiercer. There's a race to the bottom mentality in pricing. And the worst part is that books have a very low price elasticity. Like a book really, it's very hard to get someone to buy an ebook over $10. Like, not that you can't do it, but like it is not easy. And it's pretty hard to get someone to buy a paperback that's more than like really $20, but $30 if it includes shipping and tax and all of that stuff. And so like you end up having this thing where you need to write 10 books in a series, or at least like okay, so I tell people this and they get really bummed, but I'm going to say it anyway because you guys are all here talking about capitalism, so I'm going to have you have a really high bar for getting bummed about stuff. But like the break even point of ads is roughly 4 books in a series, which means until you have 4 books in a series, I actually don't know if you have an ads problem or not. Like you would have to write 5 books in that series before I would say, "Oh yeah, you're still unprofitable." Like so again, like there is this length of book, length of series, length of time you have to invest in publishing before you really get that exponential growth out of it. Like I make a course. I literally have done this. I have recorded a course in a weekend and made like $50,000. I cannot do that from a book. Like it's just like not at the beginning of my career. Whereas you could find one client, you could all leave your job today and find one client that would pay you $100,000. Like it's possible. I'm not saying you should do that, but like you could reasonably consult with like 3 or 4 clients, each paying you $10,000 a year. You really can't do that with a book. Like a book, if you sell, like the power law curve is so hard with books because like 98% of them make no money. And you need to have so many people on your list before it actually like the volume gets through. So yeah, I mean, those are all big problems. The opportunity is that like most books aren't very good. Like most books from the past aren't actually like being marketed. So like if you it actually takes very little effort exerted before you can get a lot of return because no one's doing any effort or they're doing the wrong effort. So like for instance, I know people who make 7 figures as authors with a 20,000 person mailing list. They're not selling like you need more than 20,000 people to buy your book before you, but like they're able to understand how to seed the algorithm, how to like run ads and how to make it work to get this to do what is relatively nominally more work than the average and getting exponentially more than the average in return. And so that is what I'm to go back to leverage assets, like that is what I'm very interested in doing. Like how can we make something that you put $1 in and you get 1.01 cent in return? And that's going to look different for every single person. Like how, like the things that I enjoy and the things that I like that will like flip to do make that flip from putting $1 in and making 99 cents and putting $1 in and making $1.01 are different. But like that is really all you have to do. Like you have to figure out how to put $1 into your business and make $1.01. And if you can make that 1 cent profit instead of that 1 cent loss, you have a business. And businesses live and die in that. Can you make that flip? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to touch on some of the things that you said there, one thing is it takes very little work to be ahead of the average, right? Because you do look at all these headwinds, like you are competing with every book, and there are however many, millions of books published every year. But if you look at the average of how much effort other authors are putting into marketing those books, It is very, very little,
Negligible.
right? Yeah, it's so many people have a sort of a build it and they will come mindset, right? Like Field of Dreams style. Like I just write the book and I put it out there and then people will discover it. But that is not how the world works, right? And so any amount of effort that you put into marketing your books will put you ahead of the average just by dint of the fact that you put any effort into it at all. And so like some of those things look like, you know, maybe you have a mailing list. Like most authors that don't have a that have a mailing list probably don't have a welcome sequence, right? So the very act of having even a single email welcome sequence that just says, "Hey, thanks for joining my mailing list. Here's a little bit about myself." Like that puts you ahead of the curve, right? Now that'll put you ahead of, probably 50 or 60% of authors that have a mailing list. And then you make it a two email welcome sequence. That's going to put you ahead of 80% of other authors, right? You make it a three or four email sequence, that puts you ahead of 99%. And
Well, I'll
it's
I'll I'll give you
yeah.
even more. If you just say, "Did you know you could buy this book?" You are probably ahead of 95% of authors because they don't do that. Like
Yeah.
they don't say, "Hey, I have this book, How to Thrive as a Writer in a Capitalist Dystopia. It is available on Kickstarter and all retailers. Did you know you can buy it?" Like literally just that idea is foreign to like almost every author. And I like it was foreign really also to Monica when we worked together when we first started doing it because she just most people don't want to ask for the sale, even from
Right.
people who want to buy from them. And that this is the thing is like there are this like there are people in your audience if you have put a book out that probably want to buy it, that should buy it at the very least. And so like if all you do is say, "Hey, this is why my book is this is why I think my book is cool. This is who this book is for. If you are one of those people, then like try this." And then if you can say these are like here's an exercise everyone can do today. Get a sheet of paper and write down 20 different angles that you can use to talk about your book and what makes it unique. Like, and that could be I wrote it while I was on a cruise. That could be like the third main character was inspired by like my best friend from high school. Like it could be I loved this book. It could be because I love these tropes. It could be because like this is the universal fantasy that I care about. Like it can be as um or as like practical as you want. But if you can just do that, like is if you can get to 30, guess what? You can send a daily email for the next 30 days and just use all 30 of those angles because that is what marketing is at the end of the day. Marketing is like I hate how email lists have been taught for so long because they're like this like send one a month and make it so long and 50 swaps and like put a thing and like have 85 and like I would say effective marketing, persuasive marketing is you write one email that has one point and tells you to do one thing. And like if you can get your marketing so it says, "Hey, I wrote this book, like I really love the chosen one archetype and like but I really like love flipping it in this way where like X, Y, or like I love Portal Fantasy, or like, hey, I love strong characters, and like this is a character, or like if you can just talk about three of your ancillary characters instead of just the lead, you have now quadrupled the sales value of your book. And nobody talks about those things. Everyone talks about the A story, but like if you have a really compelling B or C or D story, you can talk about literally any of those things, and you will find that people go, "Well, I didn't know that about your book." If you just say, "What are the objections that people have?" Like I used to get this one, so I work with a lot of romance authors. They would say, "Why would I read your book when all you're going to do is fridge the woman?" Which is like kill the woman to further the plot of the man. I was like, well, like most of my main characters, one, are women, and like also don't do that. And also like my books are, or they'd be like, "Why would I read a book that's not romance when I know that romance happily ever afters happen?" Every book. And I'm like, "Oh, great. Like my books are all noble bright." So like if you like Noble Bright books are the opposite of grimdark. The heroes are on a quest that they like agree to. They're generally good or good intention, and like they win. So like if that's all that is separating you, you need to know that the characters win in the end. Well, like awesome. Or they'd say, I don't like horror. I'm like, great, my books are fantasy. So like it's a whole different set of tropes that you're going to see. And everything that I just said, like you can are ways to just marketing is about finding different angles. And if you just go out of your house, this is another one. If you don't like that first one, as you go about your day tomorrow, just count how many different ways McDonald's tries to get you to buy their burgers. It's not one. It's like 30. There's a different, and every time you see a billboard or an ad or whatever, it's a different aspect of like, look, McDonald's has a bunch of family in there, or look, McDonald's has like new healthy options, or like McDonald's has salads, or look, did you remember the Big Mac? Do you remember Happy Meals? You like turn on a TV and they're at McDonald's like talking there, and like every single one of those ways is a different angle, and they don't try to add 50 angles to a promotion. They add one, and then they tell you why it's cool, and they say you should go buy this now.
Yeah, I think that something that is very important from everything you just said is particularly about the framing of how you come up with those things. So if you do that, if you do a worksheet exercise, which this is, I love this exercise of writing down 20 things about your book, different angles. The way that I would even encourage people to frame that is like write down 20 things that you are enthusiastic about your book, right? Like not even thinking about it from a marketing perspective or angles that you think that other people might enjoy, but what are 20 things that you're enthusiastic about your book? And then
Mhm.
just share your own things that you love about your book, and naturally, the people who are also enthusiastic about it and love those things too are going to be where you find your audience, right? And then it feels less salesy because it doesn't feel like you're trying to convince people who don't like what you do to start liking what you do. What you're doing is you are sharing your own enthusiasm for what you do, and other people are recognizing it and saying, I love that too. And yeah, I want to read more about that because like, oh, you're enthusiastic that like this is a, it's a ensemble cast who are going to on an epic adventure to take down, the big bad or whatever, right? Like that's something that you are enthusiastic about your book, and I go, "Oh, yeah, I love those kinds of adventures too. I love those kinds of novels. Like I'm going to go check that out," right?
Well,
And
I
so
would say that when someone is sick of talking about their book, they're really sick of talking about that aspect of their book. And they just need to
mm,
find another aspect that now they're excited about. And then when they're sick of that aspect, find a different aspect or go back to the previous one.
I even love the idea of being enthusiastic that you wrote your book on a cruise, right? Like, I mean, even though it's like not exactly relevant necessarily to the audience, but it shows something about your character voice too. Like if you talk about how you wrote your book on a cruise, like and you tell me that story, that's going to tell me something about your voice as an author, and that could be what gets me enthusiastic and on board for that story as well, because like I'm like, oh, I love how this person talks,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
Or yeah.
I'll give you an example from like Evan and me working together because he has an article on the author stack that's launching tomorrow. We went to him to the promotion. He's like, "Well, I'll have you on my in my group and like I'll write an article for the thing." And we spent a lot of time being like, "Well, what's the right angle though for the article? Like what is new that you haven't talked about 1,000 times before? And what does my audience like? Because this is a lot of their first introduction to Evan and story origin, but like I have told them a bunch of things. So we said like, well, let's talk about beta readers, right? Is how to do beta readers. And like I know that like Evan doesn't talk about it a lot, nearly enough the beta reader part, because I'm part of his like thing. Like so like just bringing up that aspect that's been around for a while, but like my audience hasn't ever like looked into story origin in this way. And I know it's like the feature he talks about fifth or sixth, but is actually something he should talk about like first or second, like often. And so like when you're just that's like a very small example of saying like, well, like I like was it like kind of more interesting to write that article than most because it wasn't about the thing you talk about every time, or like was it harder?
I love to talk about the beta readers feature. Like I agree that I probably don't talk about it enough, or I don't talk about it right off the bat because so many people come to Store Origin when they are thinking about trying to build a mailing list, right? Because like that's how most authors when Story Origin comes up in conversation, and that's why they go on board, is because they heard from someone else like, oh, go on Story Origin, start building your mailing list there. That's a great way to get started. So many people come to it from that aspect, and so that's what I'll usually talk about first. But like the beta copies feature is one that I love to talk about because it's so unique too. Like in so many authors have this struggle where it's like they've sent a Word doc out or whatever, and like they have 5 different Word docs and you can't compile it all, or like you send a Google Doc out and you've got like multiple people like fighting in the comment section on your manuscript where you're trying to write your book, and you're like, guys, this is like my workspace and you guys are arguing. Anyway, it's yeah, it's yeah, I like to talk about it when I have the opportunity to do so for sure.
But like
But
that,
yeah,
but like
it's finding the stuff you're enthusiastic about to share in
But
other
like
people's.
that, see how like excited he was about talking about this
Yeah,
thing that a lot of you may not even remember that that you can do this thing. And like
yeah,
that's what often we're talking about when I'm thinking about like how do you make this more excited? It's like the beta reader thing is good. It's like
yep,
exciting. People who use it like it, and like more people should know about it. So like if you talk about so like it's not like he's like I kind of hate the beta reader feature. Like it's not something I want. Like it's about taking all of the like love that you have for a piece of the thing that never gets attention. Like sure,
yeah,
you write romance, everyone wants to know about the love story, but like what about like the friendship story between like the girl and like her
yeah,
best friend? Like what about like the like secondary story of her trying to start a bake shop, like whatever that thing is. There's all of these other things, and every book has them. Like I've never met an author who's like literally every page of this book is about the exact one thing because it's impossible to write that book. Like it's like you need chapters, and like if maybe a short story is about that, but like, what are the themes that you're interested in? Like, what were you watching when you like wrote that thing? Like, what was the inspiration to get like that aspect out of it? Like all of that stuff. Like to go back, someone asked, I want to make sure I get this question because someone asked, like, what are the right steps? To which I then
yeah,
responded back with this like authorstack.com/framework because the problem is not like probably no one here has an information problem. What most authors have is an execution problem, but really what they have is a sequencing problem. Because the right answer to what are the right steps are, well, what are the things that like light you up? What are the things that like what are the tropes and universal fantasies and such that like your audience expects? Like what are the marketing actions that you do with ease? So people always someone said to me, I don't want things easy. I want them easeful. Easy is without difficulty. Easeful is without resistance or with little resistance. And so I think people are saying the word, why can't it be easy? When what they really mean is, how can it be? Why isn't this easeful? Why am I doing all of these things that aren't actually helping me move along? And usually the truth is, well, there's like six main axes of which like you can build a like career today. Retailers, subscriptions, conventions, crowdfunding, website like landing pages and special offers and like special edition kind of stuff on your website and like your web store. And like you probably need to pick one of those and spend the next 3 months, like the next quarter of your life, figuring out whether that's going to move the needle forward. And then if it does, double down on it for another 3 months. And if not, then switch to some other thing that lights you up at that point. And then there are four media channels. And this is the real key. There's four media channels, and you need one to work amazingly before you have a successful thing. One is borrowed, one is owned, which is your website, your books, your store, places that you control, your email list, places where you control the experience, and like also the chain of information for the data. Like you own the chain of custody for the data. Two is borrowed. Borrowed would be like this, like I'm borrowing Evan's audience to talk about my book. Evan's borrowing my audience to like write this article, to like we're using each other's authority to like expand our own brand, hopefully. Then there is paid, which are advertising, and then there is earned. Earned is PR. And I can tell you, you can make a great living on what any of those four, but please God, make earned media last. Because PR works best when you have something people already want. So like once you have like the apparatus set and like the book's popular, or you're like yeah, go and do PR, because then it will amplify. But earned media is generally an amplifier, and it takes a long time to work because it requires people wanting your thing before like people want to write about that thing. So like most people do owned, but a lot of people do paid. I know a lot of people who are like excellent in KU, don't even have a website, don't even have a mailing list, don't have any of that stuff. They're great, or someone who's great at social media, at TikTok, and like that's the only thing they do. They do like TikTok in a TikTok store. But you need to pick not earned media, one of the other three. Not that earned media is not great, it's just like you need a timely hook, and it probably is not going to be the one that works best for you. So you have, let's say, crowdfunding, and let's say borrowed attention. Well, like there's a ton of stuff you can do in the next 3 months. Launch a Kickstarter campaign, work with a bunch of other creators on collaborations, launch a campaign, deliver a campaign in the next 3 months, and like focus on your borrowed media. Or spend the next 3 months doing story origin. And I know I'm trying to get this to the end. Build up your own, make a killer website, make a killer web store, use story origin to like build up your email list, have a great automation sequence, and like probably not a subscription. Subscriptions are the hardest one. So like maybe you do a special offer on your book to people that come to your website and like join your mailing list. But like that is one strategy that is monetization, and one strategy that is attention seeking. And like you do them separately. We always think that we need to do the monetization and the growth at the same time. It almost never works. I have never figured out how to make this work, and I swear to God, I'm not saying I'm smarter than you, but I am saying that I've given this a lot more thought than almost any other human on the planet. And I, Russell Nolte, not find a way to make the monetization and the growth happen at the same time, because they are opposite ends of the spectrum. Growth is about reducing friction, and the biggest friction point is money. So instead, if you spent a lot of time on the growth and a little bit of time in like a launch, probably will work better for you. Anyway, like that is what I mean by like right steps. Like that's a lot of what the book is about. I have a blog called The Author Stack. You should go and sign up. Evan has an article launching tomorrow on it. And yes, like, did you know you could buy this on all retailers and also on Kickstarter? And I don't know, some of you probably are like, oh my God, Russ needs to shut up right now. But I made about 4 pitches to my book in this time, and hopefully they were entertaining. I see one person laughing. But so like you can do it in a way that is authentic and also like gets the point across to go buy the book because you have something to sell. And I don't know, hopefully that was helpful and not just chaos.
The camera was also blurry, so give us the name of give us the title again.
Oh, it's called How to Thrive as an Author in a Capitalist Dystopia.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
available on
Yeah.
all retailers, and it's available on Kickstarter now. The Kickstarter has a work.
Awesome. Awesome. I love workbook books and stuff because they make things more tactical. And I think the end of our discussion here as well was so great because we really got into some of the nitty-gritty of exactly how to execute those things, and having a framework in general is just so helpful. And I think going back to just I want to address one of those things that you were saying, like, paid versus earned versus owned, all these things. I think, like we were saying earlier in the conversation, paid is really difficult if you don't have 4 books out or 5 books out, right? And I think one of the main challenges there is, like, in this capitalist dystopia that we've built, is that all of the advertising channels that are available to you, they're all based on bidding for impressions, right? And so as more authors and more marketers start to try to advertise on these platforms, it's more money chasing basically the same number of eyeballs, right? And so those bids for getting your advertising, you're getting your ads in front of people, just generally tends to rise over time because more people are trying to throw money to get their ads shown. So authors that have a backlist of 10 books, it doesn't matter to them if they're losing money on selling their first book, because they know and they can see, 80% of people that buy book one will read it and pick up book two, and then book three, and then book four, etc. And so they can look at what their sell through is, and they can say, on average, this series makes me, you know, $50 for every time I sell book one. And so it doesn't matter to me that I'm spending $10 to make a $2 sale on book one, because I know on average the full series they're gonna that, I'm going to be making $50 off of the series as a whole. And so I think that's just another to get into, again, that like sort of tactical stuff and thinking about timing in order of operations, is like paid can sometimes feel easy, but it also requires you be at the right point to be able to make that work. Otherwise, you can be spending a lot of money if you don't have that backlist there that can support the sort of the back end of building up profit. So,
Yeah, I'll just say that like when before I had a bunch of books, so this is like back in 2017, and I still don't do very many ads, but like what I said was I don't have many books on retailers. I don't have a long series. What I can do is put a bunch of people at the top of my funnel. So like I did all of the builders, every single one of them that you could. I did them all, and I was like, this means that I need to take a ton of people, push them through the blender, get the people at the bottom of the funnel who will buy the stuff that I do from now until the future. And that felt like a good invest. What felt like a good investment was if I can have a mailing list, I can have a website, and I can have emails that I can build a process that I put 1,000 people at the bottom of the top of the month and like 100 people come out the bottom, then like amazing. I could do that forever. And I'm willing to lose money like now, not on the ads necessarily, but on the audience. And I will say that like I built up like a 10 to 20,000 person audience, but it took me 175,000 emails. So like that's what I'm saying is like most people do not even understand the scale of what they have to do to like move the needle. I have people all the time, they're like, I got 5,000 people on a builder, or like I went through and I did this thing and everyone is like a freebie person. I was like, everyone though? Like you got 300 people and not one of them, even one of them was willing to buy your book. Does that seem like a problem that like the platform has, or is this a problem that like you have in convincing them that you should buy that like your book is worthy of buying, or like and like over what time horizon? Because like usually when you get in someone now, you're not actually going to monetize them probably for 1 to 2 years, like maybe a couple of them, but like your goal, like you're not even on their radar, and then you're suddenly on their radar and like but at the bottom of it, and it just takes time to be like, okay, I'll read this freebie finally, like okay, fine, like I'll buy the next in the series, cool, like 6 or 8 or 9 months later they're suddenly like, oh, now I'm excited about the thing. So like how many people are you putting in and what is the time horizon by which you need them to make money? And if it's not at least 1 to 2 years, like I would say like that's okay, but you are not giving yourself the best opportunities to succeed. There is no reasonable expectation that you should like expect to monetize these people before like the end of this year.
Yeah. It takes time to build rapport with your audience and for them to trust you and then nurturing them. It's there's no overnight success for sure. It all takes time. And so it's just about being consistent too as well, right?
Mhm.
Awesome. All right, we are past our hour here, so I don't want to keep anyone any longer, but thank you all so much again for coming out. Russell, tell us again, where can people find you if they have any follow-up questions? You have a huge, vast array of resources that authors can check out that are super helpful. Tell us a little bit about all those things real quick.
Sure. So I have a blog called The Author Stack. It's at theauthorstack.com. It's just over 1,000 posts and videos and podcasts and all sorts of stuff about like how to grow your business. I have a website myself at russellnolte.com, which is all my fiction. And then my book is called, I want to make sure I get it right, How to Thrive as a Writer in a Capitalist Dystopia. It's on Kickstarter. It's on all retailers. It comes out everywhere in August. It will come to Kickstarter backers next month, though.
Thank you everyone again for coming, and we will see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.